And what I'd like to do now is share with you what I think of as the essence of getting out of our personal history. You know, Alan Watts described it like this. He said, your life is like a boat, and it's heading up the river at 40 knots. And you're standing on the stern of the boat, looking down as the boat's heading in this direction, and you're looking at the water, and what you see before you is a wake. And he said, you have to ask yourself these three questions about the wake. The first question, what is the wake? And the wake that you're observing is just a trail that is left behind. That's what it is. It's just a trail that is left behind, if you can see that metaphor. And that's your life. And everything that's ever happened to you up until this moment, it's a wake. And the second thing is, what's driving the boat? That's the second question. That is, what's making your life go in this direction? And the answer to what's driving the boat is the present moment energy that's being generated by the engine. And nothing more. That's the only thing that makes the boat go. Now here's the most important question to ask yourself. Is it possible for the wake to drive the boat? That is, can a trail that is left behind make a boat go in this direction? And of course the answer to that is, it's impossible. Can't happen. And most of us, including those of us who are stuck in disease, are believing that the wake is what's causing me to be sick today, or causing this relationship to not work. And this woman whose husband had left her and who had to raise these children and had lived with all of these thoughts of how this shouldn't have happened and what a bastard he was and how wrong that was and so on, was living back here in the wake, believing that all of this stuff that was back here was causing her to be depressed, to be sick, to be unhappy, to be all of the things that she was, when in fact, it's just the way that she was processing that. It's the present moment energy that is generated by our thoughts that creates what it is that we are experiencing now. And if you can get out of the wake, or if you can teach your patients to get out of the wake, how many patients had come to you and told you that I've had back trouble my whole life? It runs in our family. My grandfather had it, my great-grandfather had it, my grandmother, of course I'm going to have it. And they're all in the wake. And they're all anticipating and expecting, and they're literally living this stuff that's back here, when in fact, they have a whole new set of options available to them if you can move into the present moment, if you can move into the now, and redirect the energy that you have into this moment. And if you're not doing that, I always say counseling is for better or for worse. And so is chiropractic. It's for better or for worse. If someone comes to you and you are operating on a spiritual level at a lower level than the person who is coming to you, you will not only not help them, you'll get in their way. You'll get in their way. You have got to be at the knowing place. And so, if you can get out of the wake, you have really overcome the first obstacle to moving into higher levels of awareness. I'd like to suggest that if I could have a continuum up here on the stage, from point A being right here, and point B being in the center, and point C being over here by this podium, that on our physical health, for example, and I just want to talk about this for one moment, point A represents an absence of health, sickness. Point B represents, I feel all right. I feel okay. I have no symptoms. There's nothing wrong. Any place between A and B represents symptoms. Colds, headaches, flus, cramps, cancers, arthritis, subluxations, whatever you call it, all of that stuff that is a part of your life, all right? That is something called symptoms, is between A and B. B, I feel all right, but I'm capable of going back anytime. And most of our treatment in our life is between A and B. Whereas point C represents perfect health. This is where I not only feel fine, I feel as good as it's possible for me to feel. So if I were to say to you, how many of you in this room could join me at 6:30 on a 25-mile run without stopping? 25 miles. How many would be able to do that, know that they could do it? 25 miles. So maybe 5% of the audience. If I said I'd like you to sit down right now and just move these chairs away and do 500 sit-ups with me, could you do 500 sit-ups? How many could do 500 sit-ups? Maybe 20% of the audience. And if I were to say to you, if we took a blood test or a urine test and we were to discover whether or not you had any toxins in your body, including anything that isn't good for it, like caffeines and nicotines and illegal drugs of any kind, and legal ones and so on, how many would be able to pass that purification test, would have a pure system? How many? Not very many. Listen to Abraham Maslow, my teacher. I've never forgotten these words. Self-actualizing people must be what they can be. There is something in them in here that says, I am capable of this, I know it, and I have to actualize it. And I will take no excuses from myself or anyone else. I must be what I can be. All right. If I were to move then over here to point A on an emotional level, and I were to say A represents an absence of emotional health, B represents, I feel all right, but anything in between like anxiety, stress, nervousness, fear, depression, being upset, and so on, is all here between A and B. At the further we get towards A, we're into things like psychosis and, very serious mental illness. And here, as we move up towards B, we get to a point where it's just neurosis, and it's just, it's easy for me to be upset. And if things are going okay now, but if one of my kids screws up, I'm capable of really going into, a very bad place. And I can get hurt very easily, and I can get depressed, and so on. All of that is back here. And here you get to a point where you're okay. And point C on this continuum represents perfect emotional health. This is the place where you have an awareness within you that says, I don't go back there any longer. What you think of me is none of my business. I am free from allowing myself to become immobilized or upset or in any way incapacitated on the basis of what is going on outside of me or how other people conduct themselves. I am in charge of my emotional life. I live at bliss.